Greetings, I'm Chris Kemp. I'm going to show you a new song that I wrote. It's called Josephine, and it's written in a mode system that I created called the Black Sea modes. Actually, I guess there's a story behind that. In my book, The Journey to Playing a Guitar, there's a whole section of new mode systems that I created. I figured since we were in the Greek modes for about 4,000 or 5,000 years, actually they call them Greek modes, but the Greeks got the intervals from the Egyptians, and who knows where they got this stuff. But since we don't read hieroglyphics, we think of them as Greeks because we read the Greeks alphabet. But the Black Sea modes has 7 different seven different modes, just like the Greek modes. And one of them, the one that's the most wacky, is Bogazi. I called it Bogazi because that's the strait between the Aegean Sea and the Black Sea. Right through Turkey, there's this strait called Bogazi. And I thought that'd be a good transition from the Greeks to this sort of Eastern European kind of sound. And the thing about Bogazi, though, is it's a diminished chord. So that's your key. Your key is a flat 3, flat 5 with a double flat 7, which is kind of creates a lot of anxiety and anticipation. So it's hard to resolve to such a chord. I don't even know. And that was my big trouble. That was my big question. Can I make that the resolve? So obviously the lyric had to end in a question. It had to be somewhat unresolved. It had to match the feeling of that. Now, in this key, you have several chords, and of them all, you've got, that chord and this chord, and you've got a flat. Actually, I should explain those chords. This is a D, flat D major 7. I'm using the C form, but I'm moving it up to flat D. It has a C7. It has an F minor, which I think has the most gravity of all the chords. Everything wants to resolve back to that F minor. Whereas this, I would say, is it's levitation. It's a symmetrical chord, so you'll see me move it up in 1.5 step relationship, because each note in that chord is 1.5 steps apart, which means that every note could be a key note. So this is an E diminished 7, E diminished 7, E diminished 7, E diminished 7. Those are the same notes, just in a different order. Any symmetrical chord can do that. By the way, this flat A augmented is also a symmetrical chord. So this form, or this song, has 2 completely symmetrical chords in it, which in this one, each note is 2 whole steps away. So that's the same chord, just different sequence of notes. Same chord. But anyway, I'm using this as my keynote, the flat A. And the reason I chose this particular version of that chord is because it ends on E, which is the key, E diminished 7. So I'm using this one. And so there's a C7 up here, which I use the flat. I do a double flat 7 here. I got one here and one here on my 2nd string. There's a B minor 7 here and also here. And those are the chords. Oh, there's also a G half diminished. Half diminished is flat 3, flat 5 with a flat 7 instead of a double flat 7. So it's really like taking an A minor chord, moving it up a 1/2 step, and I'm using my thumb to play the 6th string on G. And I'm actually using my thumb to mute the 5th string. The 1st string is also muted. So that's a half diminished, G half diminished. So those are all the chords, and of all those chords, the F has the most gravity. So I use that in the chorus. So I really, if you look at the modes and you shift to Onkarian is what the modes are in. I mean the chorus. The chorus is in Onkarian, whereas the verses are in Bogazi. Now, it starts with arpeggios. So basically, I just go through a chord progression with these arpeggios. That's my E, the diminished chord. And here I'm just playing the mode, the Bogazi scales. And I go to F minor. So that's. And then you go into flat D major 7, which I'm using the E form here. And there's my C7. And then I end on that flat A augmented, which lands on that E, which is the key chord, which is where I'm starting. Like a cloud around the moon. So that's how it starts. Now the lyric, I got the idea from this dude named Pane Andoff, who thinks there's a big cosmic wave coming from the center of the Milky Way. It's heading our way, and it's 1,000,000 degrees, and it's highly magnetic and full of gamma rays, and it's gonna make the sun go into hyperdrive, and it'll make the sun consume its energy and create a red giant. So when the sun goes red giant, it's going to consume Mercury and Venus, and maybe even Earth, but they think it might stop before it gets to Earth, but it'll be right next to Earth, and it'll probably vaporize the atmosphere or whatever. And then once it consumes itself, which will only take about 6 months, and then it'll crush itself back in, the gravity will crush it in, and it'll become a white dwarf, which doesn't give off a lot of light. So basically, even if we do have an atmosphere, our photosynthesis will pretty much be a minimum. And so it looks pretty bleak for life as we know it on Earth. But with all those gamma rays, we're supposed to change our DNA. We're supposed to evolve into a new being that's on a totally different level, a higher level, which all sounds great, but I would miss the way things are. I really like the way things are. But so then I started thinking about the Earth itself, and as a living organism, it probably likes the way things are as well. And so I came up with this idea of like the Earth and the Sun having a love relationship, and the gravity of how they're held together. And so this is a love song between the Earth and the Sun, and it'll obviously end in a question, because it's Bogazi. But so this lyric really was inspired by Pane Andoff and his documentary on the cosmic wave. And well, anyway, and I refer to a little bit of Egyptian stuff because they worship the sun. And, well, I mean, I guess we do too. It's like Egypt, and you had Isis and Horus, and then that became Mother Mary and Jesus, and there's just a lot of correlations back to Egypt. I mean, with even if most of the modern architecture, with obelisks in Washington D.C. and the Freemason Society, they still worship the Egyptian ways. But the Egyptians, I guess they got most of their ideas from the oldest sacred text, I guess, would be Zoroastrianism, and I guess the early Iran, and then from there it went into India with the Vedic writings. But anyway, what does that got to do with this? This is well, anyway, there's a verse where I talk about the polished throne and the desert ruins and all that stuff. I'm thinking about the Egyptians and how they worship the sun. But anyway, the love song between the earth and sun. This song is called Josephine. I hate when I mess up. Like a cloud around the moon, close my hand and say goodbye. As the trees whisper their solemn tune, in the darkened night the owl cries. Reflections on your naked form, retreating down a path well worn. When daylight burns the mist away, alone I'll be, my heart is torn. Will I ever see again the contours of your face. Press your body hard to mine and float in our embrace. Oh, Josephine, you own my heart. This lonely rhythm falls apart. You promised me you'd stay this time, but now you're gone and I must start this broken day without you near. We'll drudge along so endlessly. Oh, Josephine, without the hope of holding you, I turn to stone. Taste the sweetness of your skin, so cruel and beautiful on my tongue. I awaken from this lovely dream to feel the torment, you are gone. Is it foolish for a fallen stone to beg a star to rise again, where once there was a polished throne? A desert ruin displays its tone. Will I ever see again the contours of your face? Press your body hard to mine, float in our embrace. Oh, Josephine, you own my heart. This lonely rhythm falls apart. You promised me you'd stay this time, yet now you're gone and I must start this broken day without you near. We'll drudge along so endlessly. Oh, Josephine, without the light you gave to me, I am alone. What will I become? So if you'll notice after the first chorus I resolved to F, but at the end, after it's what will I become, that question, I can't resolve back to F because that would lead it into Hungarian, so I used the arpeggio for the diminished chord. And then I end on the key note, which sounds very tense. And that's Bogazi, or at least my song in Bogazi, Josephine. And I thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. And maybe you can try playing that song. Chris Kemp, signing off.